The only seagoing lizard in the world is the marine iguana of the Galapagos Islands. In spite of the violent surf, the iguanas manage to graze on the marine algae that flourishes here. After an hour or so in the water, they have to come ashore to warm up in the sun. They swarm out of the ocean like an army of reptilian invaders. The island of Fernandina, one of the youngest of the Galapagos Islands and a stronghold of the marine iguana. They live in large herds, and the males are highly territorial when it comes time to breed. Aggressive big males roam through the herds of females, establishing their territories and confronting rivals. Shaking the head is a challenge that begins a grimly determined test of strength. Throughout, the iguanas make no sound. The marine iguanas congregate along the coast, where they have easy access to their food supply. But inland, the Galapagos Islands are often barren, the tips of volcanoes that only recently, in geologic time, emerged from the sea. Lying 600 miles off the coast of Ecuador, most of these islands had no permanent human population until this century, and like Fernandina, are uninhabited today. Anything that lives here must surmount the scarcity of food and water and the ever-restless volcanoes. Frequent eruptions on Fernandina send rivers of molten lava rushing down the mountainsides. The island is young, still growing and changing. Life on the Galapagos is evolving as fast and furiously as the volcanoes. In their stark and ever-changing world, creatures here have adopted patterns of behavior found nowhere else. When dawn comes, it reveals that the lava has run right through a grove of Palo Santo trees, the home of a pair of Galapagos hawks and a large colony of land iguanas. Some of the survivors are making their escape across the cooling fringes of the lava, but at the cost of scorching their feet. On the coast, the lava created more havoc for the wildlife. Birds lost their regular roosts, but they were able to fly to safety. Many of the marine iguanas, however, were boiled alive in the sea. Only a few escaped, and now a completely new landscape faces them. In February, the female marine iguanas are digging holes on the beach. 4 weeks ago, they mated, and now it's time to lay their eggs. Their young will have to overcome incredible obstacles if they are to survive. Hawks appear in the mangroves beside the beach. Out on the sand, the females are exposed and exhausted from digging and egg-laying. The female iguanas run for the place where they'll be safe, the sea. The hawk has tackled too heavy a victim. The female will still have a chance if only she can get to the water. Finally, the hawk gives up, but the iguana is already dead. The males, being bigger, are safe from attack and had been basking in the sun before going into the water. They have especially long claws that allow them to cling to rocks as they rip off the seaweed. They breathe air, but can stay underwater for 10 minutes or so. They rarely stay in the water for more than an hour because they get too cold and lose their energy. Little fish follow them, grabbing small creatures, disturbed when the algae is torn off the rocks. Vast shoals of anchovies appear, pursued by hungry sea lions. The first sea lions probably came to the Galapagos from California in the distant past. Quite naturally, perhaps, they know all about surfing. It's March, and warmer waters flow down from the north, raising the temperature of the sea. More moisture evaporates from the ocean's surface, and clouds appear over the islands. Soon it will rain. There is little water much of the time here. Every creature responds to its refreshment. the largest island, Isabella, it has rained for several weeks. Pools have formed on the floor of its biggest volcano. Giant tortoises take in gallons and store the water in their bladders in preparation for the long droughts ahead. Hawks begin their courtship flights. And the tortoises, too, after feasting on the newly sprung grass, will soon begin mating. The males are all somewhat bigger than their mates, but this one has chosen an especially small partner. The young hawk seems baffled by these heaving boulders. It's an exhausting business that goes on for more than an hour, the groans of the males echoing around the huge crater. Isabella and the other Galapagos Islands are not only isolated from the South American mainland, but also from one another. They provide stunning examples of how animals evolve in different environments through natural selection. Fernandina is a stronghold of the marine iguanas, but life is not at all easy for them. The eggs they laid on the beach, warmed by the sun, are now hatching. For the great blue heron, this is a good time. Only hours after they have hatched, the newborn iguanas must cover several hundred feet to reach the safety of the water. Herons are not the only enemies they have to face. Galapagos snakes don't kill their victims with venom. They squeeze them to death. To reach the seas, some of the baby iguanas must cross an old lava flow. Several snakes are here, waiting in ambush. The snake can unhinge its lower jaw to engulf prey much larger than its own head. Death comes to the baby iguana from suffocation. The first iguanas are thought to have reached the Galapagos several million years ago as involuntary passengers on floating vegetation. And here they evolved. One branch of their descendants stayed by the sea. Another took to the hills. On the lower slopes of the volcano, land iguanas are beginning to breed. The male digs a number of burrows, and the female comes to inspect them. Her nod, however, means an aggressive no. She is not ready to accept him. But he persists. Now she seems almost indifferent to him. She lets a mockingbird clean her, picking off dead bits of skin and then eating them. She makes a meal on one of the plants growing on the male's land. He is about to lose patience. This is not the place to mate. It's better to drag her to the center of his territory, where he is less likely to be interrupted. Their brief encounter is over. The male will stay here and wait for another female to turn up. But her labors are only just beginning. For now she sets off on an extraordinary journey. She starts to climb up the flank of the volcano towards the crater. She will have to climb up over 4,000 feet, and the climb to the top will take her 10 days or more. Close to the rim of Fernandina's crater, steam spouts from volcanic vents, and this keeps the ash warm and moist, the perfect place for these iguanas to leave their eggs. The female iguana follows a well-worn path up to the nesting ground. Hundreds have already been this way in the last week or so. Suitable ground is scarce, and much of it is already occupied. She spots an area that seems vacant. But it's not. there seems to be no room for her here. The sun is beginning to set. At this altitude, the nights can be very cold, and that's bad for a reptile. She has to find shelter. A small cave, just the place. Others are already inside, but she is allowed in. The temperature begins to fall dangerously. But steam percolating from below keeps the dormitory snugly warm. In the cool morning air, steam swirls upwards, heated from the volcanic chambers below. But the nesting ground is fully occupied. She and other latecomers have to move on. There's only one place to go now, over the lip of the crater and down into the volcano. Fernandina crater is immense. Eruptions emptied the lava chamber deep below, and the top of the mountain collapsed, forming this huge caldera. No one knows when it will explode again. The crater floor is more than half a mile below. The walls are steep and dangerously unstable. She and her companions start on what seems to be a suicidal journey. They descend into the crater. The slightest disturbance can send tons of rock hurtling downwards. And each year, the iguanas have to find new ways to get down. Many of the migrants are killed each year, but still they come. At last, she reaches the crater floor. Volcanic ash lies thickly in some places. Steam from below keeps it warm, and there, just below the surface, it's about 90 degrees Fahrenheit, the perfect temperature to incubate iguana eggs. There is more room down here, but any attempt to dig in a place that might disturb eggs already buried here will lead to violence. place of her own at last. Even after all this, there is no certainty of success. Some years, an eruption will destroy all the eggs. Nor are the females' labors yet over. They still have to climb out of the crater and trek 10 miles down the volcano, back to their home grounds. July brings relief from the hot season. Trade winds from the southeast drive cool air up the sides of the volcano, and the moisture they carry condenses into low-lying fog. This is called the Garua. For the next 6 months, the Garua mists will be the only source of moisture on the islands. The island of Isabella, 30 miles to the east. Here, the arrival of the Garua is the signal for the tortoises in the crater to climb up to the rim and collect the moisture it brings. There are several kinds of birds up here. A finch collects ticks from the tortoises, just as mockingbirds pick skin from the iguanas. And tortoises invite them to do so by adopting a special posture, so that the birds can reach every possible part of their skin. Tortoises, after all, can't scratch themselves or clean their nostrils, so this arrangement suits them both. In the western part of the Galapagos, the Garua sweeps around the slopes of Fernandina and over the lava fields, blocking out the sun for several hours each morning. As the mists burn off, the marine iguanas begin their daily march down the beach to the sea. At this time of the year, cool currents sweep in from the coast of South America, 600 miles away to the east. And cold, rich waters from the central Pacific often well up from the depths, producing lush growths of marine algae. The algae grow with phenomenal speed, and they need to, for along this stretch of coast live tens of thousands of marine iguanas. The hatchlings are now 3 months old, and they feed on the algae exposed on the rocks at low tide. Sea lion pups of around the same age don't go out to sea either. They stay in the shallows, playing boisterously. For them, an iguana is just another toy. By early afternoon, most of the iguanas have finished grazing and are sunbathing to get the heat they need to digest their meals. Some of the hatchlings stay together on their own patch of beach, but others mingle with the adults, and that is the safer place to be. The hawk won't tackle a full-grown male iguana. It's too big and powerful. But a young hatchling is a different matter. A young reptile dies, and a young bird is kept alive, for this is the time that the Galapagos hawk also breeds. There are 2 hawk chicks in the nest. The bigger one is always fed first. Only when it is satisfied will the smaller one get any food. But this year has been a good one for iguanas, so there's plenty of food for both of them. Back on the coast, the sea lions, too, are giving birth. The mother tears away the birth membranes so that her baby can get its first breath of air. As it breathes, so it calls, and that is vitally important, for the 2 must learn to recognize the sound of each other's voices, and so be able to find each other in days to come. The rich, upwelling nutrients along the coast stimulate the boobies to begin their courtship. A blue-footed booby needs to show its mate that it has blue feet and is not any other kind of booby. And their courtship dances make that perfectly clear. In some areas, the boobies are breeding where the marine iguanas traditionally spend the night. And the reptiles have to run a gauntlet of beaks to get past them. As the iguanas settle down to sleep, they continually spurt vapor from their noses. This is a salty substance that drains into their nostrils from special glands that excrete the salt they take in with their meals of seaweed. The sun begins to sink, the day cools, and the iguanas cluster together to keep warm. During the night, the garua rolls in across the summit of Fernandina. At dawn, mist clings to the coast because of the continued presence of cold waters. It's a signal for the penguins to gather and court. Penguins only breed when food is plentiful. And it has just arrived. The rich waters along the coast have attracted huge swarms of anchovies. Penguins love anchovies. One of their tactics is to drive a shoal into shallow water, where there's less room for the fish to maneuver. Near the surface, others can strike from above. Pelicans. Their water-filled pouches are too heavy to lift, and they're too greedy to surrender any fish. The pelicans are sitting ducks. Only when enough water has escaped from their pouches can they swallow their catch without being pestered by penguins. The boobies fish much farther out to sea. They may detect the presence of a shoal near the surface by the activities of dolphins, who are searching for the same thing. The sea lions also follow dolphins. And when at last the prize is discovered, there's a frenzy of feeding. Harried from below by dolphins and sea lions, the fish rise toward the surface and give the boobies their chance to attack. Back on the cliffs, the young boobies are exercising the wings they've not yet used and harassing the marine iguanas. All this helps to develop the young boobies' skills and build up their wing muscles in preparation for the time when they too will need to catch fish. The hawk chicks, well nourished on their diet of young iguanas, are now 2 months old and almost ready to fly, eager to go and find food for themselves. Last year's brood of hawks gather from all around the island and celebrate their mastery of the air above the summit of Fernandina. They're keeping a sharp eye on the floor of the crater below, where a great feast is about to begin. It's October, 100 days since the female land iguanas were here laying their eggs. Those should now be on the verge of hatching. All the hawks are aware of what is about to happen, and all are determined to claim their share. Fresh from the egg, totally inexperienced, the baby iguanas obviously sense the danger posed by the hawks. The eggs in each clutch hatch almost simultaneously. The baby iguanas will stand a better chance if they all emerge at the same time. One makes a break for it. The others see that the attention of the hawks has been diverted. There are just too many talons around to escape them all. Once they reach the crater wall, there is more cover, but the hawks can still outwit them. They are only 8 inches long. They have not yet fed and are dependent for their energy entirely on the little yolk that remains in their belly. And they still have to climb a crater wall 3,000 feet high. The baby iguana reaches the rim of the crater at last, but this is only a brief triumph. Neither the journey nor its dangers are over yet. A short distance below are the steaming vents and the nesting area which their mothers passed 3 months ago on their way into the volcano. Almost a dozen snakes have gathered here. Some slither into the burrows where the females had laid their eggs, intercepting hatchling iguanas as they dig their way up to the surface. The hatchlings can outrun the snakes if they get a reasonable start. But the snakes are everywhere. Those few that make their escape climb up a plant or a boulder every now and then to get a better view of the way ahead. There is a long way to go yet. Their final destination is the lower slopes of the volcano, almost 4,000 feet below. Down on the coast, their cousins, the young marine iguanas, are now 6 months old and increasingly confident as they graze among the waves. It will be several years before they're big enough and strong enough to join their parents grazing on the sea floor. The reptiles of the Galapagos live in an isolated world, but it's no island paradise. They're surrounded at all times by danger from the land, the sea, and the sky. The very rocks they live on regularly split apart and erupt fire. But it's these same perils and privations that have changed and refined them to such a degree that today there are no other creatures anywhere else in the world like the dragons of Galapagos.